This podcast is supported by listeners like you. We're grateful for your tax-deductible donation at newthoughtphilly.org or the link in the episode description.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchioni and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchioni.
It is wonderful to get together again, and I'm looking forward to our much more peaceful conversation today because you want to talk about Buddhism.
I do. I love New Thought. I really do. It's just everywhere I turn, with whatever I pick up to study, it's just such a beautiful thing. But it also, I know it's a synthesis of a lot of different religious beliefs or religious orientations, and Buddhism is one of them. Mm-hmm. And in the discussion of comparative religions, often I'm finding that Buddhism it's popular. It's not like it's, people don't know about it, but that which makes it what it is sometimes to me just gets left out. It's so important, that idea of peace and simplicity, which it sounds nice. You talk about it, you say, okay, but when you look at the craziness that's going on in the world from whatever perspective, that part of that belief system seems to be very absent, even from those who say, oh, I like Buddhism,
Yep.
So I'm interested in your thoughts about how Buddhism speaks to New Thought.
Okay.
What's the conversation?
Yeah. And one of the ways that I describe New Thought in general and New Thought Philadelphia, which is my spiritual community in Philly, is that we're kind of the greatest hits of all the religions. So we're not necessarily inventing anything brand new for ourselves. We're putting them together in a new way. And the idea is if you can love like Jesus and meditate like Buddha and pray like Muhammad and believe like Moses, pretty good start. And that just implicitly says every tradition has something to offer. And Buddhism, actually Buddhism and New Thought have a lot in common because they're the only two that, well, that's probably the shamanic, the earth-based traditions don't have a prophet or you're following either. But there's not, these are the rules that you have to follow, and this is the guy who you have to worship in Buddhism. Mm-hmm. And the same thing in New Thought. And other religions tend to have a God out there or a Jesus or, their prophet or their way shower. Or in Hinduism, there's lots and lots of different deities. Mm-hmm. Lots of deities. And mm-hmm. Buddhism is much more about being grounded, centered, going within and living in harmony. Mm-hmm. And it's still not easy. It's still not easy to do. I mean, the explanation can be really simple, but just getting into one topic and diving in on a deep dive can be a big process. A big process. Just we're gonna do a lesson on family relationships. Okay, in Buddhism. And there's just so much to it and so many different relationships and so much nuance and so much energy that we bring to it and our family members bring to it. And it's threading that needle and walking that path. And how do we bring the Buddhist principles to that? The principles are simple. The practical application, you spend a lot of time on it.
I think that's true, but I also think that's true with just about any religion. I'm running them through my grid as I'm saying this, but it's true with all of them. I think the fundamentals of the faith, the belief system or the faith system looked at apart from the issues of the world and the external stuff is important, to get the fundamental understanding or principles of it. And then as life implodes and messes it all up, we have something to embrace. In other words, thinking about the problem that we have and then trying to pull in a principle to solve it, to me seems to be backwards.
Yeah.
The thing that attracted me to Buddhism was the idea, just the simple idea of simplicity.
Yep.
And I was tickled by Buddha says the problem you guys got, you're unhappy because you want too much.
Right.
And so I'm laughing at that before I knew, I tried to make the application at all. And this is years ago. And he said, and so it comes back to me at times when I'm feeling a sense of frustration. I'm thinking, okay, now, is this because you want too much? It's just there. It's just a thought that quickly. Is this because you want too much? And I run it. And sometimes that is true, but it's the foundation of these various faith traditions that are the answer, that give answers to us, for us, or supply us with answers sometime before the issues arrive. Yeah.
One of my favorite concepts from Buddhism is that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And, part of me wants to push back and say, pain's not inevitable. I don't have to have pain. But then again, in my Western mind, it's like I'm going to go to the gym and work out and get myself healthy. And it's like no pain, no gain. Well, I can't have both of those and say pain is okay here, but it's not okay there. And to me, that gives me some space to change to the topic of, well, what is suffering? And it's exactly what you were talking about. It's about having one experience, but wanting a different experience. And the Buddhists can summarize that. You want too much. Okay. This is we are living the life that we're living. And if we want it to be different than it is, we can strive, we can work, we can put our energy and attention and intention into creating a different experience of life. But if we suffer all the way through until that new experience comes along, what have we gained?
Exactly. I was, as you were speaking, I was thinking about some going through the issues that I'm going through with space. I have a 3-bedroom condo. It's it's beautiful, and who would want more space, right? Except for me, who has, it's the whole thing was built for women that have 2 dresses, 1 pair of shoes. And that is not the case here, right? So I have 2 garages, but one of the garages is not used for what its purpose. It's my excess. So I said, okay, and I'm frustrated. And I've been here maybe almost 8 years now. And I started asking myself, okay, Carol, you want too much. So how about we look around before I get all stressed out or continue in my stressed outness? How about we take a break here and see if you want too much, based on, like, if you get rid of some things and change some things around, do that first, right? And then see if you still want what you say you want. And it just, I'm not saying that it's going to be the answer to everything, but it's better than the struggle of doing nothing but complaining, and suffering. Like, what about my suffering can I relieve?
Right.
While I'm waiting for whatever it is, which may not be necessary if I, relieve myself of the suffering.
Yeah. And the question that comes up for me is, do you want too much or do you have too much? Or both or neither?
Yeah, I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both. For me now, for me, it's both because I tend to hoard. So if I let go of some of the stuff that I am holding on to, I'm going to have more space.
Right.
So then the question is, do you now have enough since you dealt with this other thing? But, all that to say that it was what I had read about Buddhism and the things that came back to me that said, let me approach it from this way and see if it makes any difference.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the whole decluttering process that Marie Kondo made very popular, which is where you don't say, let me go clear out this room. It's like, all right, I'm going to take this item and look at it and say, does this bring me joy? And if it doesn't bring me joy, or if it hasn't brought me joy in some period of time, I can lovingly let it go. All right. And then when I need whatever joy I think might be coming out of that sometime, I go find another one. And if it is going to bring me joy, then why am I keeping it shoved over in a corner there underneath a bunch of other stuff? Let me put it someplace in a place of honor and let my environment be in alignment and harmony with my inner perspective. And then I get to let go of a whole lot of stuff. And not just the material stuff, but the attachment to the stuff that, or the preconceived notions that I have about the stuff that's already here.
Exactly. I went through that, with her. And here's what I thought for me. A lot of stuff brings me joy that I have. Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, so what is the emotion that is attached to this? And most of the time, it's the joy or energy I felt at the time of the purchase.
Right.
This was so fun. And the memory of it still brings me joy. So I said, okay, this is not the approach for me because I got a closet full of joy here.
That's right. It's like a photo album.
Yeah. So what do I don't know what the process would be, but sometimes I just look at it and say, listen, Carol, you're not happy. You are just simply not happy. So what is it that's going to make you happy? Period. I get frustrated. I can't go through and sometimes I'll take an armful of it and just take it to the thrift shop that I like the most. Mm-hmm. So I'm not just going somewhere. I'm taking it and I'm giving it to some people and place that I like. And then I remember doing that a couple of times. And I'll get in the car and I'll feel really good because those were joyful things to me. Now they will bring joy to somebody else. But it's a starting point. It's not like when you get in the middle of the pool, how do I swim? So, I'm looking at Buddhism, I guess, for the space of our conversation here. I think it has so much to offer in terms of, you don't have to be a Buddhist and give up your church or anything like that. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But to me, that's the beauty of comparative religions, because you get to see and experience what others have to offer. That's like the candles that you light every Sunday.
Yeah, the flames of faith.
The flames of faith that I said I wasn't going to bring up, but I'm bringing it up.
You're bringing up the flames of faith.
Yeah, because it is such a beautiful moment. I don't get to come to New Thought Philly online all the time like I did at first, but I try to get there for that part. Whenever I do, it really does something, because you're saying that I'm stopping in this moment in my life, regardless of what kind of excrement is going on in the world. I'm stopping to appreciate everybody and what they bring. And to me, that's a game changer in a lot of ways. I appreciate the beauty of God that you bring that I would not have known had I not listened to you.
Let's take a break. And after we get back from the break, we'll actually listen to the Flames of Faith.
Yeah.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marchione's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the New Thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchioni.
We're talking a little bit about Buddhism and also about other religions and faith traditions. And so we're going to light the flames of faith, which is something that we do every Sunday morning at New Thought Philadelphia. And this was actually created dozens of years ago by Reverend Gene Sweet, who kind of got it in a download. And just to be a little intellectual, the flames are lit in chronological order of when these traditions began.
We perform this ceremony to acknowledge that all people and all faiths come from the one power, love, intelligence, which we call spirit or God. We honor the richness that comes from our shared diversity and bless the interwoven energy of the divine feminine and masculine. We light the first candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for the earth-based traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous people, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the ninth candle for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. As we light the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone or any place you wish to have experienced the healing flame of God's eternal love.
Blessed be. That's the flames of faith.
But what a beautiful reminder of who we are and who we say we are, and if you can only relate to maybe two or three, because, it's a lot. People don't know all of those faiths, but to know that, there's one I don't know about, let me find out about that. But this is who we are, throughout the thread that comes throughout eternity. This is all of us. And when you think about the oneness of that, or the wonder of that, that brings you to that place of unity and oneness in your thoughts. I just, for the life of me, cannot see how there is room for hate just in that ritual, in the space of that. How can there be?
Yeah. I remind myself, how can I point at one of those candles or two of them and say, those are the bad candles? It's like, no, no.
Especially since you pointed out it's in chronological order.
Yeah.
This is for the lack of a better term, this is the history of how I came to be in a real sense, and I'm not talking about, reincarnation or anything like that. This is the path of God that God has taken throughout history. And here I am, I happen to enter in at this point, but I still have the freedom to visit or stay with any other that I desire. It's just so amazing.
Yeah. And I like watching through that progression and realizing that there are multiple deities in the religions up until Judaism, which was the first one that said there's one God. And then Christianity was based on Judaism. I mean, they share a testament. and then Islam came along and said, all that scripture is perfectly good, and that all the other stuff is true as well. And how do we cultivate that richness and build upon it? And the people who invented the religions knew this. And their followers sometimes have forgotten.
Unfortunate. Yeah. There's so much division because this is my candle and that's your candle. And this is, hello. They're all lit by a flame, which is identical. There's just no getting around the oneness of this all, But don't let me go down that road, because
you can.
I'll take you down.
I've been involved periodically over the last 5 or 6 years with a group called Interfaith Philadelphia, and a friend of mine is an interfaith. Actually, it's a couple. They run an interfaith community in Southern California, and getting into interfaith is kind of like getting into the broader New Thought organizations. Like there's the Centers for Spiritual Living over here, and there's Unity over there. There's a Universal Foundation for Better Living and Divine Science, and there's a lot of different ones. And if you only know about one of them, you think the other ones are different. And as soon as you start learning something about 2 of them, you start finding the common threads. It's like, oh, well, this is exactly like that, except, this thing. There's some key differences between Judaism and Christianity, and a couple of key differences between what Judaism was teaching and what Jesus claimed that later turned into Christianity, where other stuff got added onto it as well.
Well, that's a big melting pot of interesting stuff, because it depends on who's telling the story. From a perspective of Judaism, it is not a shared, religion. What are you guys doing here? Like trying to latch on to our stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, we think the Messiah is still coming.
Yeah. And
that's difference of opinion.
So, and oh goodness, we could do a whole thing on this one. But then I'm thinking at times we have such audacity to have attached ourselves to this and demand, and then try to claim it so based on a portion of scripture that doesn't even reside in their sacred text. What? You know what I mean? So I'm not mad at anybody. What I'm doing is understanding the tension between the two and saying, and I get it. I can see this. Is there a way that we can work this out? But trust me, I see you're upset.
The things that we can manage to argue about, that we have no idea about. I'm convinced that I am right. And that's fine. That is perfect. That's where faith lives. And in every spiritual practice and in every religion, faith is the cornerstone. Faith is the belief in things unseen. But for me to sit in my faith and get to the point where I'm believing in something unseen and then insisting that somebody else believe the same thing, even though I haven't seen it and they haven't seen it, instead of the unseen thing that they're having faith in. It's just like that's having a fight where there's nothing to fight about.
Is it our ego that needs to be right regardless of the facts? Even though the facts may be this, that we don't have all the information. That's a fact. Maybe that's all we've got. So does the tension there mean that no matter what we have, what I have is it? It's an ego thing. It's not a God thing based on any kind of facts or truths or half-truths.
Right. And, as a couple of ministers who've spent a fair amount of time preaching and ministering and pastoring to people, I will say with some self-awareness that we invite people to let us be their sounding board, their source, their avenue of truth. And it gets scary, dangerous, uncomfortable when the person who is telling us what to believe and what to do and how to live a proper life in a way that will be uplifting in their spiritual life and in the eyes of God. When we give our power to somebody else, then they might use it for some other things that will help them.
Of course. Of course. But keeping sight of those things, I understand that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. I get it. But it's not losing sight of the humanity that we have become. And it is part of human nature to want to have more, to be the best, to be competitive and all of that. And how do you put a check and balance on that? And I think when you exclude other religions, other faith traditions and so forth, it becomes much easier for you to wrap this power thing around your ego and you become the it, because it's whoever has the loudest voice, who's the most charismatic, all of that is the winner. Really?
Right. Yeah.
Is anybody,
No, that's not so much applicable to a spiritual life as it is to like professional wrestling. It works in professional wrestling, loud and brash and attracting a lot of attention, and it doesn't matter what's behind it because it's all about the show. But for our spiritual lives, it's not about the show. It's about what happens internally. And there is such a willingness for people to say, okay, it seems like it's going to be a lot of work for me to sort out my own morality and decide what's okay and what's not okay. So I'm going to let somebody else do that spiritual work for me and just do what they say. I'm going to job it out and then follow along. And on the one hand, it's easier. And especially if there are some convenient ways like, oh, if you didn't get what you were praying for, it's because God didn't want you to have it. Rather than, oh, well, yeah, there's something that's going on inside of you and you need to work on it. And I can't do it for you. I can help you, but I can't do it for you. People go, no, I don't have the time or the nerve or the courage to do that. Because, if I turn over those rocks in my subconscious, who knows what I'm going to find? Just let me leave them there and you do a prayer for me and I'll continue doing what I've been doing and hope that you're going to get me a different result. And you've seen that.
Of course. Now, I have an approach to this that is rather unconventional.
I'm sure.
I was never very popular, but it is a non-negotiable for me. We will work through this together.
Yep.
There's work to be done.
Yep.
Okay. I'm willing to work with you, but not for you. Now, that puts the onus, that puts a lot of responsibility on the leadership to take an unpopular position. Because people want you to tell them, okay, I'm not your girl. I'm not the one.
And you're big on that. There's work to be done, and it's spiritual work, and it's internal work in consciousness, but it's work, and you can't job it out.
It's yours. You know what I mean? It's yours, and I'm not saying it because I did it, and I believe I'm saying because I think it's right. And if you don't do it, it's not, you can't claim it as your own. That's why it's easy for people to move from church to church,
Right.
because this person says something that I like or I didn't like. No, you don't even know what you think about it. Do that. Take a Sunday off. You don't have to go there. Take a Sunday off and think about it. But that's a big, tall order, but it's a non-negotiable with me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so a lot of, I guess my voice goes out to it. It always seemed like a challenge, but it wasn't. It's like in a conversation of leaders, I'm inviting us to a shared relief in the leadership is showing, not doing.
Right. Right.
You know.
And yeah, to change that, to change the course of that river is not necessarily an easy thing to do. In New Thought, there's a lot of the same sort of thing. Some people will jump from, one spiritual community to another. The thing that happens much more often, since we've got folks who do healing prayer on behalf of other people, they do practical prayer or spiritual mind treatment or unity prayer, is they'll work with a practitioner for a while, and then they'll jump to a different practitioner. And what happens when they do that is they get to start the story over again. Oh, let me tell you this tale of woe, and I can tell you what it is that I want to have in my life. And then, it's like, so I've set up this plateau that I'm on. Then the practitioner works with them for a while and keeps on pushing them closer and closer and closer to their edge. And it's like, okay, there's a cliff. You need to take a leap of faith now. And instead of taking the leap of faith, they go find somebody else and they start talking about their plateau again. and I understand, but there's no leap in there if you're going to dodge the work.
No, it's, as you were saying, you take them. I'm saying, look, let's walk up to the edge. This is it. You see that? That's what it is over there. So now you can do it any way you want, back or forward, but this is the edge. And I don't claim all of us have a different approach to it. Some have a softer approach, but I think that when we're selfish by nature, and I'm using that word for the lack of a better, another one, because we don't have a lot of time forever, but we're selfish. So let's be selfish and do the best for ourselves that we can. And that's starting here. Mm-hmm. You don't really want my life. You want your life. I can tell you what happened with me, but you don't want my tears. Trust me.
Right.
You have your own. So start with you and stay with you. It's for you. It's your benefit. And it's fun. It'll be more fun. It's no fun for you living my life.
Yeah. Interesting story, because I do healing prayer sessions with people. And folks will say, oh, can I buy a package? It's like, well, yeah, you can, but you better want well visits. Because if you're coming to me and you have an issue and a problem and something that you want to deal with, it's poverty, it's loneliness, it's lack of a job, it's, whatever it is, don't book 3 sessions with me, because when you do that, what you're saying is you don't think the first 2 are going to work. And the other thing that's happened is, people have done like the well visit package, and they come in, and after the 3rd visit, they're not showing up anymore because there's been a transformation in their life. It's like, oh, I'm onto something completely different here. And that lifts me up, and it's wonderful. And it was also not lost on me that this is exactly the opposite way that a therapist works. The therapist is like, okay, somebody's going to come in, we're going to start talking about their story. I've got, once a week meetings for 7 years, and, it becomes an annuity. And for me, it doesn't work that way. No, lightning will not strike the same place twice. The same place is not there the second time. And we can get that level of transformation going. So don't start with the assumption that it's going to take a while, or that you're not going to be able to do it, or that there's going to be some struggle involved. But like you say, the transformation happens in their consciousness. It happens in their awareness and belief system, and it shows up sometimes remarkably quickly in their life. And there's some folks who I'm working with now who, every, few weeks or a month, they'll do another session, but we're not talking about the same thing again. Mm-hmm. whatever that was. Oh yeah, that diagnosis, that resolved. This treatment plan has completely worked. The doctors are now have a completely different opinion of what's going on for me. And let's talk about my relationship with, my friend.
I think that that's so important, because that it takes a minute sometimes to work things out, but you can see the end from where you are. It doesn't have to be this way. It can be another way. So let's talk about how to get to that other way, or desired reality, as popularly called. So let's focus on that. And if you only come back 3 times, then that's good. See, let me give you a quick example. I got to be careful with this, because I want to make sure that I doubt it. Okay. So
just keep it anonymous. He, she, they.
Yeah, but it's a whole lot. Somebody said, "Oh, you were talking about me." No, but I used to do conferences with, I would be on the thing, and you do the altar prayer and so forth. And I got to know certain people. You see certain people every year.
Mm-hmm.
And they would want me to pray for them, and fine. But I started noticing it was the same prayer with a couple people. And I've been thinking, wait a minute, you still worried about this? So then I started worrying about my lack of warm fuzzies, because maybe it's me. I don't have enough warm fuzzies, because we don't need to be talking about, this is about the 3rd year in a row. And if this person is still being crazy, you should have dropped them off last year. I mean, after the first 30 days. I'll leave it. All right. But again, it's taking responsibility for the new life, the newness that you want.
Yeah. I might have told you this story before about my late friend, Dr. J. Scott Neal, who was speaking on the platform at the big annual religious science conference at Asilomar out in Monterey, California. And he's in a big meeting hall. And he says, show of hands, how many of you are practitioners? And a whole bunch of people raise their hands. He says, how many have been praying for the same thing for 20 years? And a whole bunch of hands go. He says, stop it. It's not working. Pray for something different.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And he was pretty prominent in the movement. And being scolded from the platform by Dr. J. Scott Neal was it was noteworthy. It was noteworthy. Let's.
Yeah, that's because it's true. You know,
stop it. You're wasting your time. You're not going to change anything. Then just stop it. Let's take another break, and we will do a prayer based on 3 of the most powerful little words that I can imagine. Here's Reverend Bill letting you know that the Practical Prayer for Real Results class is now available on demand. That's right, you can take it at your own pace, anytime you want. All of the information is at bethelight.com. That's b-the-light.com. You know where to find that stuff. The class is 5 lessons, broken down into 18 modules, and you can take them at whatever pace is comfortable for you. As you work through the process, it starts out with the theory, goes into the practice, there are experiential activities and exercises, and at the end of the program, you will wind up with an understanding of how practical prayer works, and a practical prayer for yourself that will work to create transformation in your life. And as you know, it works for everything. Take a look at the class online at bethelight.com. There's a sample lesson so you can see how the class is going to work for you, and then dive in. The great news is it's on sale now. You can register and save $20 off of the regular price. I'm looking forward to seeing you in class.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchioni.
And I had promised a prayer based on 3 of the most powerful words that we can put together. And you know what they are?
Surprise me.
That's 2 words, but the 3 most powerful words are I don't know. And the reason that I think that those are such powerful words is because before we say I don't know, our minds think that we do know. So whatever space there is for something new to show up, a new idea, a new thought, a new experience, a new intention, a new choice is full. There's no room at the inn. And that new idea needs to go lie in the manger until it's ready to be honored. So if there's something that's going on in your life where there's some confusion or befuddlement or something that you want to be having happen differently and it's not, that's where this prayer becomes powerful. We get to say, I don't know. I don't know. And that is not the end of the story, because I don't know means that I don't know yet. I don't know now. I haven't known up until now. But that opens up the possibility that we can know. So if there's something specific that you want to know that you don't know, bring it to mind. And if there's just an overall tendency of gripping on to what you think you know and letting that control what you're doing next and squeezing out the possibility for something different, bring that to mind. Take a deep breath. Let yourself be filled with that idea of what it is that you want to know. And then breathe out and acknowledge, I don't know. And in that out breath, we're surrendering, we're releasing, we're letting go. And notice that that exhale leaves you ready for another inhale. Breathe in and be inspired. That new idea is ready to fill you in the same way. And again, surrender, let go. That might be the final answer. That might be a step along the way. That might be a distraction that's softening us up for something really big. Who knows? Keep breathing, whatever way is comfortable for you. As we turn our attention away from the situation or the circumstance or the topic that has had us stymied up until now, acknowledge, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that there is an infinite intelligence, one limitless creative power. I call it God or nature or spirit or the Big Bang, the source, creator, whatever it is that I call it. It is that one which has been sharing itself as every aspect and facet of its creation since the very beginning of time. It is an infinite intelligence that knows how to create galaxies and does so with seeming effortlessness. Everything that exists everywhere, every planet, every particle, every person, every moment, everything is that one taking its own specific and particular form. So I know that that one has been recombining and evolving and unfolding itself as every part of creation since the very beginning of time. It's doing that right now as me, as each one who is listening to this practical prayer. I know that infinite intelligence is guiding all of this unfolding. And so what I do know is that that infinite intelligence can reveal to me exactly that which is mine to know in the perfect, very clear, very understandable way at the perfect moment, in a way that's unequivocal, unquestionable, clear, and actionable. With that new idea, with that new knowing, with that new inspiration, I am able to take the next perfect steps and participate in co-creating this next experience of goodness. I don't know. And I don't know is making way to know something different. And that new knowing, that process is unfolding right now for each of us in our own way, for all of us. Wisdom and insight, guidance, understanding, and peace of mind through the entire process is unfolding now. I'm so grateful for the good that's happening. I'm so, so grateful for the willingness of each one here to engage in this process, to let go of the ego attachment to thinking that we know what it is that we think we know, to make room for something new. And so with gratitude for all of this good, I speak this word of invitation, of intention, of opening. I release it into that creative law that creates everything, that one divine mind that has been creating since the beginning of time. And I know it is creating this goodness as us now. And I let it be. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marcioni and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
This podcast is supported by listeners like you. We're grateful for your tax-deductible donation at newthoughtphilly.org or the link in the episode description.